Well, folks, I'm here with Greg Chapman, all the way from Australia. Greg is a two-time International Bram Stoker Award nominee. Greg Chapman is a horror author and a horror artist based in Queensland, Australia. Greg is the author of several novels, novellas, and short stories, including his award-nominated debut novel, Hollow House, and collections Vaudeville and Other Nightmares, Sublime Darkness, and Other Stories. He's also a horror artist. His first graphic novel, Witch Hunts, A Graphic History of the Burning Times, written by authors Rocky Wood and Lisa Morton, won the Superior Achievement in a graphic novel category at the Bram Stoker Awards in 2013. He's also the current president of the Australasian Horror Writers Association. Greg lives in Rockhampton with his wife and their two daughters. He's being interviewed primarily because his current novel, his current story in the collection, This Sublime Darkness and Other Dark Stories, The Book of Last Words, is up for a Stoker Award. And congratulations on that, Greg. Let's start talking, though, about how things are going in Rockhampton, the other horror, the pandemic. How are things going? And what are some of the things that you guys are restricted from doing in your daily lives?
Thanks very much, Dacre, for this opportunity and that wonderful introduction. The pandemic here in Australia is happening much like it is in every other country around the world. Where I am in Rockhampton, we have 9 cases, I believe, of people with COVID-19. We're a small town. We're about 60,000 people here, and those 9 are actually spread across a much sort of wider region as well. So they're not all here in Rockhampton. For me personally, I'm currently working from home. My wife is working from home. My children are also doing home. They're basically all their schooling is online now. And I also have my dad here who is, he's 79. So we've been looking after him. He did have a little fall at home a couple of weeks ago and was in hospital for a while, but we've sort of been keeping him here and keeping him safe. Just because of everything that's going on. I understand that the state that we're in, the borders are closed. Only people who are Queensland residents can get in. But I think Australia as a whole it's feeling the grip of COVID. We have had deaths. And, it is a very challenging time trying to work from home. This future is very uncertain. For everybody, so I guess we're much like everyone else around the world. We're all sort of feeling it, and it's a shame that something as important as StokerCon couldn't go ahead. But this is the world we live in now. So I think this is a great idea, great opportunity to interview the nominees, and I have been looking at some of the other ones, and they've been really good interviews. So I'm looking forward to this. So thanks.
Good. Now, Greg, on a regular basis, would you be working from a studio somewhere other than your home? So being at home is new and different to you?
No, well, actually, I don't work. I work for a university. I'm in their media and communications area. So yes, I would normally be at work Monday to Friday.
And they're shut down. The doors are closed.
Well, we have campuses all over Australia. They are still sort of open, but all students are now doing their learning online, just to keep everybody, safe and away from the campuses. So yes, we're all, a lot of the staff are basically now working from home, and I've been home now for 2 weeks. So, and that's looking like it could go on until possibly September, October. So I just don't know, but I would normally be at work.
That's what we're hearing over here in America as well. It's the end is not in sight, essentially. The curve has not flattened. My son is teachers at university in South Carolina, and it's new for him to do this online teaching. So he's if there is a silver lining, it's learning how to be a teacher from a distance, as well as obviously a student that your daughters are going through. But what are the challenges with? Can you get out and get groceries in the drugstore and things that you need? How difficult is that a challenge?
We are allowed to do that. So we've just basically been encouraged to only go out if it's really essential, so to medical appointments and to get groceries. We are currently getting our groceries delivered at home. We were able to get an exemption because we've got my elderly father here, so that certainly helps. Just getting the groceries delivered at home. But I guess we don't. I guess we're trying to be responsible and not go out unless we really need to. And because I'm working here from home, I do need to be here at home and making sure that I'm still doing my job. So,
Sure.
but yeah, the restrictions aren't as bad as in other parts of Australia. I know people have been. The police are out a lot in some other parts of Australia, and people have been fined for being out for no good reason. I believe there's $1,000 fines if you're sort of out for no good reason. But here in Rockhampton, there's still people getting around, but certainly not as many as you would normally see. I live here on a reasonably busy street, and I've even noticed a decrease in traffic. So most people are doing the right thing and staying home.
And as I was chatting with another fellow author from Australia, and I have to mention, this is like a double whammy for the Aussies. You just had a terrible fire season, and now you've got this. How was it affected? Were you guys affected in Rockhampton with any of the fires?
No, the fires were much further south from here, but yes, it certainly has been back-to-back tragedies. A lot of people lost their homes, their livelihoods, and we were only just really recovering from that when COVID came along. So it's going to affect us greatly as far as from a financial perspective. Our government is throwing money at everything, trying to keep people employed. I think we've got over 1 million people who are unemployed here now. And people who are already affected by the fires would really be hurting. So thankfully, where I am, I wasn't affected by the fires, but pretty much the whole sort of southeast region of Australia was affected by those fires, and it was terrible. So it would be a very difficult time for many people.
I can certainly imagine. And what does that do personally as a creative person, both in the written as well as the drawing arts? I don't know if you're working on any current projects, but how can you get into the right headspace to be creative and do your work when you've got these horrors, the real life horrors going on around you? How's that affected you?
It has been debilitating. I think the writing has been hard to sort of get going with that, but I've found that the drawing and focusing on art has been a good way of me trying to de-stress and not think about things too much. And I do that normally anyway. I'm always sort of drawing something each and every day. I try and draw something, and that does help with sort of coping. But the writing is difficult. You sort of you get up every day and you try not to look at the news, but then you have to look at the news because you sort of need to be informed. But there is a lot of doom and gloom in the news right now, and that is very difficult to sort of get in the right headspace and focus on something that you want to do. And obviously everyone's worried about what's the new normal going to become. We're hearing this a lot now, and a lot of businesses are saying, well, things are going to change. There's the fear that some people might lose their jobs. I worry about that. Also worry about what's the future going to hold for my kids when they're in school. There's a lot of things in the back of the mind that push everything else to the side. But I do feel that drawing does sort of help me forget about things for a little while.
I found I'm used to having, even when I'm writing, the little notifications come on the computer screen. And I think I'm looking for something positive. It's like, oh, if there's something good, I don't want to miss something good because I need that little upper. And it just doesn't happen. So I just shut off the notifications, and we are allowed to take the dogs out for a walk, or I'll go for a bicycle ride. That they're not stopping that right now. That clears my head, and I come back and get into it too. So I sympathize, and we do have to somehow be aware of what's going on, because we can't literally live in a cave, but we do need to plod on, because life does continue, and we make the best of it. And talking about the best of it, let's talk about the book of last words. You're up for a Stoker. It's not your first, so you've been to
No,
that rodeo before, as they say.
I have,
But
yes.
you sort of denied your opportunity to go to Scarborough and to be with the other nominees and to sort of bask in the glory and be there for the excitement. Even though the award ceremony, they will have an online ceremony the 18th, but it's not going to be the same. So let's just start with, were you planning to go to Scarborough? Was that part of the plan, or did you have to ditch those as well and do something
Um,
else?
well, the awards actually coincides with my dad's 80th birthday, so I wasn't actually planning on going, but I hope to go next year to, I think it's on in Colorado.
Yes, Denver. Yep.
And yeah, and the last time I went, Rocky Wood, I went with him. He kindly took me over for the World Horror Convention in Portland. So that was the last time I've actually been over to the States and caught up with everybody, and I do miss it. So yeah, look, I was tempted to go this year, but then I realised that it was my dad's birthday, and I thought, oh well, I've got to be there for that because it's quite a big deal. He's turning 80. So no, I wasn't planning on going, but I do know that there's a lot of camaraderie when you go to these StokerCon events and just simply catching up with people who you very much admire, and we all sort of we all talk the same talk, and I think that's really healthy. And it's a shame that this horrible virus is stopping people from doing that. But hopefully it'll all be over this year, and I'll be able to go to Denver and catch up with everyone because I'd really like to do that. I do miss the crew, everybody that I met when I went over in 2014.
Well, let's talk about Book of Last Words. Show us the cover, because I understand you did the cover art, and
I
give us
did.
some of the. Let's talk positive for a moment. Let's talk about your art and your story and where you got the inspirations and motivations for writing it.
So the story, the Book of Last Words, appears in this little mini collection that I brought out called This Sublime Darkness and Other Dark Stories. It was published by a publisher here in Australia, Steve Dillon from Things in the World Publications. He releases a lot of charity anthologies as well. And the Book of Last Words is one of 7 stories in here. And the inspiration for the Book of Last Words, it came about after I read an article about some of the things people have said on their deathbeds throughout history. So, and some of them were, I can't remember exactly what they said. They were just a few utterances before they passed away. And maybe there was 1 or 2 more profound sort of sayings. But just reading that article got me thinking about, well, what if somebody collected those last words? And what would that person or entity be? So that's where the story came from, and I thought, well, where's the best place where you could collect these last words from people? And I thought, well, what about death row? And always wanted to write a story that was set in a prison, a death row prison. And subsequent to that, I'd also been reading a lot about. So I wrote this story quite a few years ago. I think it was 2016, and obviously the war in Afghanistan was going on at the time, and I also wanted to make my main character a returned soldier who'd become a prison guard on this particular death row, and what's his story? Maybe there's some last words that he never got to hear while he was over there. So that's essentially what the story is. So you discover this prison guard, you get to know him, and then he starts seeing this mysterious figure at every execution. And the story just goes on from there. Obviously, I won't say any more because I don't want to give it away.
No spoilers.
But Tales to Terrify, the podcast, just actually published the story as an audio version.
Okay.
So that just came out a couple of weeks ago. So you can listen to that. And I believe they've recorded all the short story nominees for this year. So, and I've listened to mine, and it was just yeah, really fantastic condition. It was just perfect how I imagined it. So, and all the others are really good too. So, if you wanted to either hear that story or you can read it, you can grab a copy of the book, which is available through Amazon. And yeah, so that's
Show us
both
some
the
of the
story
art.
behind
You
the
mentioned
book.
that you
Yeah,
did
so
some of the art inside. So give us a glimpse.
I did. So I'll just take you to this is one of the pieces. This is a story about Jack the Ripper, called the Bedlam Stones, and yeah, I really had a lot of fun creating these pieces. They're all sort of gritty, gothic sort of artwork. There's another piece. That's another story about a man who comes out one morning and finds someone has dug a grave in his backyard. And I'll just show you the Book of Last Words piece. So that's the artwork for the Book of Last Words. So you can just imagine this guy holding this very ancient book with gilded pages, standing in the crowd as these prisoners get executed. So yeah, quite creepy. I do like creeping people out with my stories, but I think having an emotional core for horror fiction is also very important. You got to get that's the best way to connect with your readers. And I
And
guess a
Greg,
lot of people like it because it got nominated. So
absolutely, there's a lot of support for your work. And if people want to know more about your work, your art, do you have a personal website, or where do you direct people?
I have two websites. So my main one about my writing is darkscribe.com. So that's DARKSCRYBE.com. And then my artwork website is darkartiste.wordpress.com, and it has a lot of my galleries of artwork that I create and book covers and things like that. So I do a lot of book covers on the side as well, and I've created a lot of book covers for authors and publishers, and also the Horror Writers Association.
Well, wonderful. Let's try to wind this up with something on a real positive note, which is we're all subjected to isolation and horrors and worries. Is there any silver lining, anything positive that you have realized? You're at home, your wife's at home, your daughter's at home, you're not all killing yourselves. Is there something positive that's come out of all this?
Well, look, as I said, my dad's has been living with us for a while, and it's been actually great having him at home here with us, and having conversations with him and helping him recover. And he's looking to go back home, and we're going to obviously keep an eye on him during this whole crisis. But I think the silver lining, has been everyone's been able to get along. Hopefully, that could stay that way for a while. But it's given us all, I think, a lot of pause about just how fleeting sort of everything we do can be, and that it's more important to have those connections. And if we can keep connecting, and even with other people on Facebook and things like that, and try and push the negative away with the positive, I think we need to sort of remember that. That's really important. So I think it's just been good for everyone to be around each other and try and soldier on and get through this.
Well, I think we should toast, Greg, to that.
Yes,
You've got
we
a
will.
mug you showed me earlier. This is a mug
Yeah.
you've designed. Very
Yeah,
appropriate.
yes.
And this is
little horror
this
mug
is something that I didn't design, but it's a passion of mine. If I wasn't doing this, I'd be out fly fishing somewhere. But neither of us are. We're indoors. But here's to you, and good luck on the 18th with your story. Cheers.
Thank you, Doug. That was great.